Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to look at finding the slopes of horizontal and vertical lines. So just to remind you, remember a horizontal line looks like this. So if this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, this would be a horizontal line right here. So left, right goes something like this, left, right. So that's a horizontal line. And then a vertical line, this would be a vertical line. So this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. This would be a vertical line going up and down. Okay, so that's a vertical line. Vertical line. And what we want to do is we want to know, well, what is the slope of a horizontal line, and then what is the slope of a vertical line? That's the idea. So let's look at this first example. So in our first example, we have these 2 points, -3, 6, and -3, 8. And if I were to plot those 2 points, I want you to notice something. So here are those 2 points. This would be number 1. So number 1, we have -3, 6, and then -3, 8. So if I were to graph a line that contained those 2 points, so here's -3, 6 right here. So this is the point, -3, 6, and then here is -3, 8. So -3, 8 is right here, -3, 8. So if I draw the line that goes to these 2 points, notice, I want you to notice something, that these 2 lines, this line goes up and down, right? So this is a vertical line. Y'all agree? That's a vertical line. Okay? All right. And what we're going to do now is we want to find the slope of this vertical line. So if I proceed here and use the slope formula, remember the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's see what we get. So let's go ahead and label those points. So this point will be x1, y1, and let's say this is my second point, x2, y2. So if I use the slope formula, I'm going to get y2, which is 8, subtract y1, which is 6, divided by x2, which is -3, subtract x1, which is a -3. All right, now remember, 8 subtract 6 is easy. That's 2. Y'all know that. Over here, though, remember, -3 subtract -3, it helps if you change subtraction to addition. So it'll be -3 plus the opposite of -3. So it becomes -3 plus 3. But we know, now the numerator is 2, but we know that -3 plus 3, those -3 and a +3, those are opposites. So when I add them, I get 0. All right, now notice there's 0 in the denominator. You got to remember this. You have to remember that you can never divide by 0. Okay, can never divide by 0. All right, never divide by 0. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, 2 divided by 0 is undefined, right? So 2 divided by 0 is undefined. So what that means in terms of this line that we just drew right here, what that means in terms of this line is this. So this vertical line that we just drew, this vertical line has no slope. That's what that means. It has no slope. Another way of saying that is this, or we could say the vertical line has undefined slope. Okay, undefined slope. All right, so the slope is undefined. Okay, so a vertical line has no slope, or we can say the slope is undefined. Okay, and that's true for all vertical lines. So I want you to make a note this. Note this. All vertical lines have no slope. Okay, all vertical lines have no slope. We can also say all vertical lines have undefined slope. Okay? All right. So whenever you have a vertical line, the slope is undefined. Whenever you have a vertical line, there is no slope. Okay? All right. So I want you to also notice that you see how the x-coordinates are the same? So whenever the x-coordinates are the same, you're going to end up with a vertical line. See, the x-coordinates are the same, the y-coordinates are different. So you can see that's a a vertical line because notice the x-coordinates are the same. So you have a vertical line. And that was, I'm sorry, that I put number 3 here, but that was number 1. All right, so that's number 1. Okay, let's look at number 2. Let's look at another one. All right, so number 2, you have these 2 points. So let's look at the line that goes to these 2 points. You have 4, -2, and 7, -2. Notice this time the y-coordinates are the same, right? The y-coordinates are the same. All right, so let's go ahead and graph this and see what kind of line we get. All right, so we're looking at 4, -2, and -7, -2. All right, so here is 4, -2 right here. And then here's -7, -2 right here. I want you to notice that when I draw those two when I draw that line going through those 2 points, I get a horizontal line. Y'all see that? I get a horizontal line. So this is a horizontal line. All right, that's a horizontal line. So let's see what the slope is of a horizontal line. So we're going to go back to the previous page, and we're going to use a slope formula. So the slope, remember this is horizontal, right? You just saw this. That's a horizontal line right here. And notice the y-coordinates are the same. So whenever the y-coordinates are the same and the x-coordinates are different, you have a horizontal line. So this can be a horizontal line. All right, so using the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So in place of y2, I'm going to substitute -2. Subtract y1, which is -2. So notice the y-coordinates are the same, right? Divided by x2, which is -7. Subtract x1, which is 4. Okay, that's a comma right there. 4. All right, well, -2 subtract -2 means -2 plus the opposite of -2. So that's +2. -7 subtract 4 means -7 plus the opposite of 4, which is -4. Well, -2 and 2 is 0. -7 plus 4 is -11. Well, remember, I can have 0 in the numerator. I just cannot have, remember, you cannot have 0 in the denominator, but it is okay to have 4 in the numerator. In fact, 0 divided by -11 is 0. So 0 divided by -11 is 0. So that means that the slope equals 0. Okay? So that, going back over here, see this horizontal line? The slope is 0. Okay? So now we can make this statement. We can make a statement that all horizontal lines have slope 0. So there is a slope, it's 0. Okay? All vertical lines have no slope. The slope is undefined. All horizontal lines have slope 0. Okay? All right. Now let's look at number 3. Number 3, we have 8, -7, and 8, 5. Okay, now I want you to, some of you can recognize this right now. You notice the x-coordinate is the same. So since the x-coordinate is the same, is this a vertical line or horizontal line? Well, it's a vertical line, but let's suppose you miss that. Let's suppose you said horizontal. Just draw it. Draw the graph. You'll see that it is going to be a vertical line. So watch, if you draw it, look at what happens. You get 8. Let's see, 8. Sorry, it's on this way. 8, -7, which is down here. So 8, -7, right? And then the other point, let me just kind of put that up here. This is number 3. You have 8, -7, and the other point was 8, 5. And so 8, 5 then would be here. So see, you get that vertical line, right? So you have that vertical line. So if you draw, if you draw the graph, if you draw that line, going to those 2 points, you see that it's vertical. And we all know that a vertical line has undefined slope. There is no slope. So a vertical line is a vertical line, and then once we know it's a vertical line, we can say it has no slope, right? Or you can say the slope is undefined. All right, so it has no slope, or the slope is undefined. Now, if you work it out, if you're asked to work it out, which you probably will, let's do the slope formula. Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is x1, this is y1, this is x2, y2. So y2 is 5. Subtract y1, which is a negative 7, divided by x2, which is 8. Subtract x1, which is also 8. So hence 8 minus 8 is 0. So that's why you have 0 in the denominator. In the numerator, though, you have 5 plus the opposite of negative 7, so it's 5 plus 7, which we know is 12. And 12 divided by 0 is undefined, right? Undefined. So we say the slope is undefined, just like that. Or we can say there is no slope. Okay? Or we can say there is no slope. All right, so that's number 3. All right, so far we know this. So far we know that vertical lines have no slope, or this can say the slope is undefined. And we know that horizontal lines have slope that's 0. So there is a slope, the slope is 0. Okay? All right, let's do one more. There's going to be number 4. So let's do number 4. So number 4, let's suppose we had 6, 3, and the other point is negative 2, 3. All right, so notice this time the y-coordinates are the same. So since the y-coordinates are the same, you know that this is going to be a horizontal line. And so some of you now know that the slope of a horizontal line is 0, right? So let's see if that's the case. So here are my 2 points. So if I graph that line, here are my 2 points, 6, 3, and the other one is negative 2, 3. So 6, 3 is right here, and then negative 2, 3 is right here. See that? And so if you draw the line like this, just like this, you get a horizontal line. So notice it's a horizontal line, right? Horizontal line. And we know that the slope of a horizontal line is 0. But let's go ahead and work it out. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so y2 is 3. Subtract y1, which is 3, divided by, now remember, since you started with y2, you must start with x2, which is negative 2. Subtract x1, which is 6. Well, 3 subtract 3, that's 0. So we knew we had to have 0 in the numerator because that was a horizontal line. Negative 2 and then negative 6 is a negative 8, and then 0 divided by negative 8 is 0. So the slope is 0. Okay? All right, so that is the idea of the horizontal and vertical lines. So horizontal lines, all horizontal lines have slope 0, and then all vertical lines have slope that is undefined. So we say that a vertical line has undefined slope, or we can say it has no slope. Okay? All right, now, you remember we had talked about rise over run, looking at this in terms of rise over run. I just want to show you something. See, we have that vertical line. So let's look at this in terms of rise over run, okay? Rise over run. So we go from this point to that point. And I want you to listen carefully. So when I go from this point to that point, I'm going up. Watch. I'm going up 1. So I'm going up, right? So I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oops, I went too far. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I went up 12. But I stopped there. There's no run. You see that? There is no run. It went straight up, right? No run at all. So my run's 0. So hence 12 divided by 0. So if I go back to where that problem was that we did, where we had 12 divided by 0. See that? 12 divided by 0. So notice I went up 12, but there was no run. So my run's 0. So that's undefined. Undefined, or we say no slope. All right? So notice there's no run. I went straight up. There was a rise only. You see that? There's a rise only. There is no run. So that's why the run's 0. See that? And if I do the same thing with the horizontal line, watch what happens. So notice, remember, slope is rise over run, right? Rise over run. Notice, do y'all see there's only a run? There's no rise at all. When I go from this point to that point, I'm only doing a run, right? And so there is no rise, so I know that my rise is going to be 0. So look, when I go from here to here, notice what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And 0 of 11, which is 0. So the slope is 0. And that corresponds, let me go back and find number 2 just to show you our graph. Let me see if I can quickly find that graph. Find number 2 real quick. Let's see, number 2. All right, I did not mean the graph, I meant this. So remember number 2, we had 0, 11, right? In the graph, when we did the graph, run, no rise, the graph here. When I look at the work, see the 0 of negative 11? Now it has negative 11 here. That means that you could have gone this way. Look, going this way to the left would have been negative 11. So you could have said, oh, our slope is 0 divided by, and then going to the left, negative 11. So that's why we had negative 11 here. But remember, 0 over 11 is 0. 0 over negative 11 is still 0. Okay? All right, so I think that should give you enough information in terms of how to find the slope of a horizontal and vertical line. So remember, horizontal lines have slope 0. Vertical lines have no slope, or we can say the slope is undefined. All right, so that's the end of this lesson.